So, at the time that I originally made this video, the case was actually still unresolved. I'm glad to report, however, that Jose Alba has had the charges against him drop. This is possibly due to the fact that the pressure being put on Bragg was immense, or it's due to the fact that he has an election coming up, or some combination of the two. But that left me in a bit of a quandary because I uploaded this video days ago and YouTube was holding it back. And honestly, at the time of me recording this, they still haven't cleared the original video. So I decided that it would be better because I liked the self-defense arguments that I make in this video. I like the references to law, and I still think there's something to be seen from this story because if it were not for the attention, likely this case would have been going through and could have resulted in a conviction. So I've decided to make slight changes to the video, remove the calls to action, etc., but keep it overall the same so you can understand what my concerns were and still are for future cases that don't have wire-to-wire video coverage and don't garner the same level of attention. Greetings and salutations, loyal viewers of this channel. Today we are going to go over a much important update on a story that I covered previously, which of course was the clear and obvious self-defense case relating to Jose Alba, the bodega owner who was attacked and acted in self-defense. But before we get into this, I just want to remind you guys that I recently did an appearance on Kirk Wilcox's show. It will be linked in the description. It's a long interview. We cover a bunch of topics, and if you want to know more about me and my ideas and where it comes from, plus some funny anecdotes about where I like to watch my entertainment, go to the link in the description for that. But before we get into anything else, without further ado, I got a sponsor for today's video. We're going to throw it over to them and then catch you guys on the other side. Weight loss is a near universal struggle in the United States of America, and one of the reasons why is because your metabolism slows down about 4% a decade after you hit the age of 20. This is one of the reasons why I recommend my secret weapon, which is of course Keto with Justice. This wonderful keto powder elevates the number of ketones in your body, which thus gives you some of the advantages of the keto diet without you actually having to be on the full keto diet. I recommend it as a supplement for the diet or on its own. It helps boost your metabolism, and if you go to ketowithjustice.com, you can try this for 60 days, full money back guarantee. You can't beat that. If it doesn't work, just send it back and get your money back. If it does work, then you're awesome, and you're gonna lose weight, and you're gonna look fit as hell. Friendly reminder that supporting the sponsors, especially the long-term sponsors, actually really does go to help support the channel, and I'm always excited whenever a brand believes in their product enough that they give such a lengthy money back guarantee. But that's not what we're talking about today. What we're going into is the Jose Alba case. And before we get into the new stuff, let me just give you some recaps and talk about some stuff that a lot of you didn't understand from my previous video related to this case. Now, as you guys know, there was an incident going on in a bodega in Harlem at around 140th Street where Jose Alba was working as a clerk. Now, I had talked about before that there was no real indication that Alba owned the bodega. He seemed just like a regular standard worker. However, I've seen some reporting that may indicate that his son actually does own the bodega. Anyway, during the course of the day, a woman came in with her daughter and tried to pay for about $3 worth of items with an EBT debit card. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with an EBT debit card, it's a debit card that essentially gives you access to the funds that are available to you through food stamps. More or less, that's what it is. I know they call the programs different things, WIC, and they call it SNAP or whatever, but it is what is most commonly known as food stamps. On top of that, I already know that people are going to say, well, obviously it's somebody on EBT acting this way, and while these stories are really bad, and honestly I think the fact that we're subsidizing this woman makes it significantly worse, I do want to point out that there's lots of elderly people, there's lots of people who happen to have disabled children, there's even members of my own family that around the time that there was a tragic death in the family that were reliant on these systems, so not all the time is there examples of these people being horrible, petty, disgusting people, although this 100% is an example of that in my opinion. Remember, in my previous video, I talked about how the transaction that led to this whole incident was somewhere in the realm of $10 most likely, which means a man lost his life over a $10 transaction. We now find out that the transaction is actually a $3 transaction, and on top of that, we find out that Jose Alba, during the course of this transaction, where this woman's card was specifically getting denied, actually tried to bail her out and save her the embarrassment of being declined on $3 so that she wouldn't get angry, and she still ended up trying to sick her boyfriend on this man. Let's listen to some of the audio from the new footage that I recently saw.
The client, okay.
I understand. What you're saying? What was $3?
Yeah. But put
Did
a
you
wrong
put
pin.
cash or food?
I don't put a wrong pin.
Did you put food?
Put a full money, put it receipt.
I'm gonna pull it in front of you, and I'm gonna let you hear that it's more
Okay,
than
mama,
$3.
let me do it another time.
Trying to
My
swipe
God.
$3. There's money on there.
Hey, mama.
Whatever your card works, I'll swipe it everywhere.
That's not my fault if the car working or working. It's not working now.
So I've seen some criticisms on other channels about how Jose Alba didn't do enough to de-escalate this situation, but right there, this is a prime example of de-escalation. He's telling her it might not necessarily be that her card doesn't have enough money, it might be that the machine is not working. However, antagonistic from the jump, this woman in question is saying that he must have stolen $3 from her and tried to run the transaction yet again. So already we have two inherently contradictory examples of how to handle a situation where Jose Alba is trying to bring it down, calm everybody down. And we know from some of the audio later on in this video, between when this woman got her boyfriend to come attack him and when he actually showed up, that he knew for a fact that she didn't have any money and she was just trying to blame him.
She don't have money. The paper he say no have money. The paper he said the client the balance is zero.
Yeah.
He no, okay, how money? Because it's zero.
Yeah.
Not my fault. He want to fight it. Throw away everything in my face.
What?
Yeah, throw away everything in my face.
This now?
Yeah, now, right now.
What the fuck?
Look at the machine right here. Oh my God.
Did they take something from you?
Huh?
Did they take anything from you?
No.
Okay.
I take it back my stuff.
Okay,
and the Chino want to take it back.
Okay. Because I was about to say, don't make me call some people over here.
Oh my God. No, mommy.
But again, de-escalation techniques, you should take note of them, and I think Jose Alba should be praised in this moment for doing so. And by the way, I've been in a position where I've had a card declined, or one of the worst case scenarios, when you try to run a card and it actually charges up to the limit that you can pay, thus leaving a balance at the end that you owe. Like you try to buy something for $10, you have $7 in your bank account, and instead of the bank granting you the transaction, they actually pay the $7, thus leaving you a $3 balance, which is embarrassing to say the least. And I would have loved to interact with somebody like Alba in this scenario who is not trying to make me feel bad in that moment, even though, again, he's probably dealt with a million of these transaction problems throughout the course of the day. But undeterred by this situation, and remember, she does allege that he snatched a little aggressively the bag of potato chips out of her daughter's hand at some point, and the video does cut at the point where the bag was taken or would have been taken, so I want to leave that out there for the possibility. She starts threatening Alba, and we have video of her promising that she's going to get her boyfriend to show up and beat up Alba.
Oh, you have these? I think you have. I think you know.
You fucking piece of
Oh, you have these?
Bring my nigga down here. You gonna
Fucking
fuck you
shit.
up. Now my nigga's gonna come down here right now and fuck you up. Stupid. Let's go. Mind your business, man. You never do that. Come on, man.
That's not my fault. You're not working. That's not my fault. You're not working. Oh, shit, se la quieren llevar free? The machine not working. The car not working. What the fucking shit? She don't have money. The paper he say no have money. Okay, papa.
Now, the reason this is incredibly crucial is because the far leftist district attorney Alvin Bragg of Manhattan is trying to make the case that Austin Simon, the man who attacked Jose Alba unprovoked, had equal responsibility in the encounter that they engaged in, and he's also not charged this woman for absolutely anything involved in her role in inciting this incident or for the violence that she herself inflicted on Jose Alba. She's just an innocent passerby and somebody who is granted the power of a god, because while Jose Alba can't defend himself with a knife, you're going to find out later that the Attorney General believes that she is fully capable of defending herself with a knife. So Austin Simon, who is a convicted felon out on parole at this moment, and he's out on parole for violent felonies, including assaulting a police officer, is informed by his girlfriend that this store owner, 61-year-old Jose Alba, was antagonistic, yanked the bag, and all this other untrue stuff, and that he needs to come in and remedy the situation. So of course, as you guys know, he storms into the store, and the girlfriend is around cheering him on, screaming at Alba, and we actually have some of the audio of her doing that, and of course video from another angle just to show how trapped Jose Alba is in this situation.
Come on. Papa, look, Papa, look, Papa, look.
Come on.
Papa.
Come on.
Papa.
What's up with you?
I don't want to provoke, Papa.
Nigga, what's wrong with you?
I know doing
That's a little girl, nigga.
So why you snatch anything I ain't?
Now, I do want to pause at this moment to talk about this woman who is reaching over the counter with some money in her hand. It is unclear whether or not this woman was trying to pay for the goods that originally caused the dispute, or just pay for her items at this point, but a lot of people have somehow casted this woman as the girlfriend and then declared her to be white and therefore somehow responsible for the actions that Austin took in this situation. First and foremost, this woman is Asian. Secondly, this woman is not the girlfriend, she's just a random customer. Thirdly, she actually was trying to de-escalate the situation at some points, putting her hand on Austin, who ended up churning and yelled at her in a threatening way. So she's not guilty of anything at all whatsoever related to this. And for some reason, a case where a black dude storms behind a counter and assaults a clerk does not involve white people, you weird racists that are out there on the internet.com. Even if it was a white girlfriend, when you escalate to physical assault, that is when you are creating a problem on your own. Now, as you guys know, Austin clearly and violently shoves Jose Alba, who's trying not to pay attention to him, and a lot of people mistook my point about Alba being elderly and Simon being 35 years old for me making a claim that under New York state law, Alba is a senior citizen, and thus this is a felony assault. Now, the point of my previous video on the issue of self-defense, and I think this is a clear and obvious example of self-defense, was that the laws in New York are not on the side of Jose Alba. On top of that, the people who are saying, oh, well, that law that says you're only considered a senior citizen when you're over 65 doesn't apply to Alba, so therefore Alba is morally in the wrong, is totally disconnected from any form of logical argumentation, and let me explain why. So the law in question classifies senior citizens at a number all of us are very familiar with at the age of 65, and it says that in the state of New York, it becomes a felony assault when somebody who is 10 years younger than a 65-year-old ends up assaulting them in an unprovoked way, meaning that a 55-year-old attacking a 65-year-old is automatically graduated to the level of felony just based on the fact that he's old and based on the fact that there's a 10-year age difference, therefore there's some kind of advantage. And the idea behind this is that you have enhanced vulnerability on the senior citizen, and that makes enhanced predatory action on behalf of the attacker. But here's the thing, I want you to think about the principle of that argumentation. It's all about how the fight is overwhelmingly unfair to one side, therefore you're trying to punish the attacker more. So Alba is not technically 65 years old, we all understand that, he's 61 years old. But Austin, the attacker in this situation, is 35 years old. Are you really going to make the case that a 55-year-old and a 65-year-old have a greater difference in strength and the attack is somehow less predatory than the difference between a 61-year-old and a 35 years old? What happens if Alba was 64 years old? Would you consider him to be perfectly within his rights, and this is mutual combat, if Austin still had a 25-26 year difference on him, thus an advantage? Not to mention the size advantage. I understand the state of New York law. The whole premise and point of my video was that the laws in New York State are wrong, and we're in this situation because the laws are bad. But if you're going to make the moral argument that that law makes sense in principle, in spirit, then you should acknowledge that clearly, in spirit, in principle, the same thing applies in this scenario, except significantly more so. Now, I said in my previous video covering this story that the girlfriend of Austin Simon, the one who instigated this whole encounter, the one who got him and threatened to bring him to attack Jose Alba, actually may have stabbed Jose Alba during the course of this incident. And the reason I left it ambiguous is because she wasn't charged, and because we didn't have video coverage of that incident. And there was coverage of Alba with a wound, but anytime you're in a situation where in an emergency you're swinging a knife around, the idea that you might cut yourself is a possibility. So I was leaving that out in the open until we got some form of confirmation. Well, it turns out that according to the charging document, the NYPD actually believes that this woman stabbed Alba 3 separate times. So the prosecution is making the case that she stabbed Alba, and yet she remains uncharged. This woman who instigated the incident, this woman who wouldn't let a $3 transaction go, this woman who brought her boyfriend specifically to assault this man, this woman who was carrying a concealed weapon at the time just in case maybe things went south, and then used that concealed weapon on Alba, is not charged with any crime at all. And apparently the wounds that she inflicted on Alba actually got infected while he was in Rikers Island, because progressive district attorney Alvin Bragg, who doesn't want to prosecute anybody, is also the kind of guy who thinks if you defend yourself, you don't deserve proper medical treatment before he throws you in a cage for the most clear and obvious case of self-defense caught in full on video. And the thing is, while there is a ton of outrage about this woman who started this whole incident not being charged, it actually makes perfect legal sense for her not to face any criminal charges based on the theory of the prosecution, because the prosecution is making the case that the physical altercation, even though on video it was Alba being attacked by Austin, was a mutual, equally responsible incident where both parties were equally culpable. Then they're making the case that Alba unnecessarily and pointlessly, unprovoked and unjustified, escalated it to a situation of deadly force. Now, you might find it ridiculous that someone, Austin, who came into a store for the express purpose of inflicting violence on a clerk that worked at that store, who got behind the counter where he's not authorized to be, and then started inflicting that violence on him, is somehow just as responsible as the person who is having the unprovoked violence inflicted on him. But again, this is the Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg's theory of prosecution. So since it was an equal combat situation, and Jose Alba, according to Bragg, only had 2 legal options in that situation. Option 1, which is to just surrender to the beating, be assaulted by this much bigger, younger man, or challenge him to a single combat karate duel. Him escalating with the knife was deadly force and not warranted. However, once that force is introduced, the woman who started this whole altercation now has the right to self-defense and defense of others, so she can stab Alba with impunity in that scenario, meaning that this woman who instigated this whole entire altercation could have conceivably killed Alba, slit his throat from behind as he was standing over her boyfriend that she brought into the situation to attack him, and Bragg is saying, based on his theory of prosecution, that she would have been 100% justified in that scenario. She would have walked free. Alba would have been at fault for not taking the beating or engaging in a single combat karate duel with the 35-year-old Austin Simon. Think about how insane that is. Think about how unbelievably stupid that is. And that's where we're at in the state of New York. That's where we're at in the city of New York. That is the case that the Manhattan District Attorney is going to bring to trial, that he should have just fought him one-on-one, called out 1D, said, I challenge you to a duel, found his glove, slapped him across the face, and that should have been the scenario. But as soon as he brought out the knife, as soon as he stabbed the person who was attacking him in an unprovoked attack, then anything could have happened to him, because then self-defense applies, because he's the one who made it a deadly force situation. Again, absurd in every possible way, insanity going on in the city of New York. Now, I mentioned the Give, Send, Go campaign in my previous video, and I'm happy to say that since the release of that video, the amount of money in that campaign has nearly doubled, and that's not just thanks to me, that's thanks to other people sharing the story. And if it were thanks to anybody related to me, it would be you guys out there in the audience who stand up for what's right, who believe in self-defense, who want justice to be done in this scenario. But I'm going to link that regardless anyway, because a lot of people think, oh, well, he's going to be able to sue the Manhattan District Attorney for these charges, whatever. That is not the case. You can only sue for charges if those charges are clearly unjustified, unwarranted in every possible way. Kyle Rittenhouse had a much more clearly self-defense case according to law in the state of Wisconsin, and he has no chance at a lawsuit against the Wisconsin prosecutors that put him up on those charges, because even then you could make some form of an argument that they had justification to at least take it to court. Once they get him indicted by a grand jury, because the standard is so low, his chances of being able to sue over the situation are near zero. So the idea that Alba is looking forward to payday, it's not true. So let me be clear, the law is not on Alba's side. The principle of self-defense is essentially non-existent in the state of New York. So what we're looking at is not a happy ending with a huge payday at the end of the day by Alba. What we're looking at is a lot of years of pain and suffering for him and his family. And all of this is because a woman couldn't deal with the embarrassment of being rejected on a $3 transaction. Just think about that. She valued the life of her boyfriend at $3 because she sent him in this situation and he's dead because of her. But hey, those are just my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you like this video, you show them by leaving a like. You can subscribe for more content. You can follow me on all my social medias. You can support me via the support links in the description box of this video. This has been me talking about the Jose Alba self-defense case. Till next time.